Hello everyone, welcome to another Eternal Deck Tech this week. As always, I want to just give a quick shout out to all the wonderful subs and patrons, and of course my excellent sponsor, inkgaming.com, that make this all possible. They have a bunch of custom playmats, mouse pads, dice bags, all kinds of really cool gaming gear, and I have a store with them. You can check it out, and you can get 12% off if you might use my code. It's all down below. It's Ilyon12. In any case, I am going to jump right into the games here. So, I have a cool deck for you this week. This one was done actually by Argenport on Eternal Warcry. I'll give the link to the original deck. It was sent in by one of my subs during Sub Sunday, where we play games from the subs. I do different decks that they actually decide on. It was called Feed the Steel, and I changed it up a little bit, but I really liked the idea of it. So this is the original, and the idea is that you can still use Stirring Sands to get a whole bunch of Sentinels back very, very cheaply. So you've got your Great-Kiln Titan, your Heart of the Vaults, and then you've got like some Moment of Creation things. And there's some cool new Fall of Argenport cards. You used to have to do this deck as like 3-color, where you were running Primal to do things like Nocturnal Observer to discard cards. You don't really need to do that anymore, because now you have the addition of 2 new cards, which are Feed the Flames, thus the name of the deck. Discard a card to create and draw 2 3/1 Flame Fangs with Reckless. And Learned Herbalist, where when you play a spell you gain life, but the important thing is, when you play it, you can discard a card and create and draw secret pages. So the reason why you have that is so that you can discard Sentinels very early and then draw them back very quickly with a Stirring Sand. I made some changes because I didn't like things like Journey Guide. Reducing the cost of units was okay, but not super relevant in my mind. I didn't love that as much as just doing other things. You've got a lot of different ways to get power. So I made some changes, and this is my version of the deck. So very, very similar, but I added in some Brenns, because it's just a better way, in my mind. It's a little bit of a test too, but I think that it's a better way for us to get fast power than to do things like Journey Guide, especially since we're playing so many spells. I added in an extra Moment of Creation, because Moment of Creation in this deck is fantastic. You're full of really, really cool spells. Purifies and Find the Way, and Torches, Seek Power, Feed the Flames. You also happen to have the ability to use Learned Herbalist, of course, to get extra secret pages and have even more spells. We also then have a little bit of a change to our sideboard here. We've got that 4th Moment of Creation and a bunch of stuff. I'm going to go into the actual deck here, though. So here's our units. We have Brenn. Whenever you play a spell for the first time your turn, you get extra power, and it gets to keep increasing, so you get more and more power as it goes on. I had a deck that was called Moment of Brenn a while back, and I found Brenn to be really, really useful in a lot of Moment of Creation builds. You can just like ramp super, super fast the Moment of Creation, and it makes it kind of awesome. We also have Learned Herbalist, like we said, key part of the combo deck, essentially. A lot of the synergy comes from things like Learned Herbalist. We have the 4 Aurelian Merchants. You always want to have some kind of merchant at this point. I think that almost every deck at this, we've kind of decided, needs to have some number of merchants. They're just really, really powerful. An Aurelian Merchant giving you extra power is just way too good. We could run the Ixtaton Merchant, but yeah, I mean, the fire cards aren't going to be as good. We want Stirring Sand. Moment of Creation we could get either way, but the extra power is huge too. We have then a bunch of our Sentinel package. We have like Sandstorm Titan, Heart of the Vault, Great-Kiln Titan. So just a bunch of really, really good Sentinels that we can draw back out of our Void using Stirring Sand quickly. Obviously, Heart of the Vault is just kind of a nuts card. Great-Kiln Titan is the best one for us to get back because it's so expensive and its abilities are absolutely insane. But of course, normally it's not as good necessarily because of how much it costs. A lot better in this deck because it's so easy to either ramp it with Brenn or to be able to just Stirring Sand it out. Then we, of course, have Sandstorm Titan is good because this deck is a little bit weak to flyers, and looking at that, we even have a couple Scorpion Wasps. These were in the original list, and I wanted to keep them because it's honestly really, really useful. There's a lot of Icarias and Charge Rod kind of things that can run around, and it's nice to have a way to interact with them for sure, rather than having to rely on only Sandstorm Titan. We have the 4 Feed the Flames, because you always want to have a way to discard. If you can go like turn 1, well, sorry, you wouldn't be able to turn 1, but like let's say that you go turn 2, Learned Herbalist, discard a Heart of the Vault or Great-Kiln Titan, or you do the Feed the Flames, discarding Great-Kiln Titan. Turn 3, play, you know, Brenn or something. And then turn 4, you have a Great-Kiln Titan. I've had so many people just scoop to that instantly. Turn 4 Great-Kiln Titan or Heart of the Vault is backbreaking. So some really cool things you can do with the very early discards like that. We also have some good early interaction in Torch and Purify. We have a lot of different ways to find power, seek power, and find the way. Find the way is also really cool with the Learned Herbalist because you can just discard one half of Find the Way to get a secret pages, which is just essentially a better Find the Way, or very similar to Find the Way anyways. And then we have another cool card, which really helps power up the moments of creation, which is Wurmcalling. You get a couple of 7/7 sandworms for 5, which is pretty cheap. I mean, it does cost mana to actually start it up, but a lot of the times early in the game, you have a turn where you can actually just throw it in for free. You know, especially with things like Brenn. You know, you trigger Brenn because the spell makes it a little bit freer to do. And it's been really, really fantastic. I could see putting in more. We're also testing Recombobulate. This is another card that was in this deck originally, and I've been back and forth on it with a bunch of different decks. It can be really, really awesome if they put a bunch of weapons on something, or they just have a massive creature, and you Recombobulate it, put them back a turn, and make something in your deck really cheap, especially when you have like big cards like this one. Then Recombobulate can be very, very powerful. You warp it off the top, it's insane. But then there's a lot of times where it's dead. So I'm 50-50 on it. You might want another Wurmcalling, because this card's really been overperforming. Then, of course, we have the Stirring Sands and the Moment of Creation. Kind of standard. For our sideboard, we have the extra Stirring Sands and the Sandstorm Titan, Moment of Creation, all kind of like the big pieces of our combos. Sandstorm Titan is the exception, because, I mean, we could put in Heart of the Vault, like a bigger Sentinel, but Sandstorm Titan stops your opponent sometimes when they just have like a bunch of flyers and you desperately need it. So it's a little bit more important to get out at key moments, and I like that for merchant type cards with our market. Then we also have Xenan Obelisk, so if we ever end up mirror matching, it's not super useful in most matches because our cards are really, really big, but sometimes you end up with like a Praxis mirror where they also have a bunch of really big Titans, and then Xenan Obelisk is just kind of the deciding factor, so it's still nice to have it. And yeah, that's the deck, and I'm going to run it through a gauntlet. We'll see how it goes. Oh, one last thing. If you're wondering why I have Praxis banner, I always make sure that I put a banner in the market. In basically every single deck that I've had subs send me, a lot of the times they'll just not put anything in the market for banners, and I see like a lot of different decks being built like that too, inside of like Eternal Warcry, and I always swap out something for a banner almost immediately. I very, very rarely have a need for all 5 of the different cards that people put in there. They put in some really, really, really narrow stuff, which can be fine. I mean, it's great when it wins you a game, but the number of times where instead you're sitting there and you have your 3-drop merchant and you've got like a 5-drop or, you know, a Sandstorm Titan that you're like, man, if I could just resolve this Sandstorm Titan, I'd win the game. And you just never draw another power. And you're like, well, I could have easily gotten rid of like a Scorpion Wasp and just won the game, not died to a bunch of flyers. But yeah, it's just super, super relevant to have it. It really helps smooth out your draws, and I like it a lot. And in case, I will be back for some games.